Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM, Andrew Byrne.
Thank you very much, Carolina. We are very excited to have as many guests as we have. At the end of the meeting, we will call on each of you and ask for your impressions, what your gut feeling was about your experience at our club. So we look forward to that towards the end. And because we taped everything, we may include that speech of what you experienced in our promotions for future members for our club. So we're excited about that. We are winding down now. It's like 75 more days to the end of the year. And I see everybody is now starting to take out their lasers and focus in on what's left to accomplish a major goal, to develop your legacy. And I see that everybody's doing that. And we congratulate everyone. David, our Vice President of Education, will be happy to help you reach those goals and plot out the course for what you can do to the end of the year. I think we have about 10 more weeks where you can speak unless you're popping around to different districts and speaking in different clubs. So we look forward to all of that. We congratulate everybody on the work that they've done so far and the other accomplishments that they've accomplished. So I turn it back to you, Carolina, for you to hand off to the Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Toastmaster of the Day is going to conduct this meeting, and this person is EVV Hartman. Welcome, EVV.
Thank you so much, Madam Sergeant at Arms Carolina, and welcome to my fellow Toastmasters, and an extra warm spring welcome to our honored guests who are here to join us today. We hope you'll enjoy our meeting, and we hope you'll have the opportunity to participate during our table topics portion if you wish, and thank you to those guests that have taken on functionary roles. Our theme tonight is April showers, and I can't think of anything more thematic, but first, some setting. As Toastmaster of the Day, it's my role to facilitate this meeting and to speak correctly sometimes. There are 3 parts of our Toastmasters Club meeting. Number 1 is our prepared speeches, where we have our members delivering speeches based on projects either out of the basic communication manual, one of the pathways, or extra topics for our enrichment. In part 2 of our meeting, we'll have members and guests practice their thinking and speaking on their feed skills and table topics, my personal favorite section of the meeting. And part 3 is arguably the most important, our evaluation section for prepared speakers. And I cannot do this alone. I have a team who will be assisting me in these duties. And I'd like to introduce them now and ask each of them to briefly describe the role they'll be performing today. First of all, we have our tip of the day, Sunny Fridge. Oh, we can't hear you, Sunny.
I will be doing tip of the day, and I will be sharing some tips about technology, cutting back on technology, and a magic way to do it. Would you like me to do it now?
Yes, please, Sunny. We'd love to hear it now.
Okay. Have you ever had that moment when just about the time you're supposed to do a presentation, something goes wrong with the technology? Raise your hand. That just happened to me just now, but I'm going to go with the flow because I'm not too fearful of doing this. So let me get started. David had mentioned a couple of days ago that we should all have that speech in our pocket. So I started thinking about, okay, what can I pull out from my files that I can do a speech on? And I thought about some technology tips. And then the other day when I was experimenting with something called magic design, I decided to do that about 15 minutes ago. And while I was deleting all of the extra files or programs that were open, somehow my presentation also just disappeared. But here's what I'm going to do, because what I did 15 minutes ago, I believe I can recreate. So I said I was going to do a presentation. And this magic design, it says use 5 or more words to describe your presentation topic. Someone give me 5 words to describe a presentation topic. I'm going to put myself on the spot. Why don't you, David, Andrew, I think, was that you? No?
Yeah, anxiety.
Okay, tips to overcome anxiety. How about that? ANXIETY. Then I press enter and it's creating the presentation. Oh, it couldn't do it. Got it. Okay, it says something you type may result in unsafe or offensive content. So I'll have to try again. Let me go with my presentation I was going to do.
Sonny, I think you typed over and not overcome.
Oh, tips to overcome anxiety. Boy, now I'm getting anxious. All right, let's see. It always seems impossible. It will not do it, but I tell you what, I will do the one I did earlier, and I think I did cut back on technology. And let me see if I put the word tips. TIPS. Okay, let's see. All right, it's bringing up something. Okay, so here it goes. It's given me a few slides, and what it does is it tells me my title, Disconnect to Reconnect, Tips for Cutting Back on Technology. Then it gives me another slide, Signs you need to cut back, the importance of disconnecting, tips for cutting back, the benefits of reducing screen time, and how to resist temptation. So it's pretty similar to what I had 15 minutes ago. And I'm just going to say, let's see, I think I created it already. And now I can share it. I'm going to present and I'll put it in full screen now. So if I was coming before you right now, I would say, hello, fellow Toastmasters. Have you ever been overwhelmed by technology or having a smartphone or other types of technology in your home? Well, today I'd like to share some tips for cutting back on technology. There are some signs you need to cut back: difficulty falling asleep, feeling anxious or irritable without your phone, neglecting social activities or responsibilities due to excessive screen time. Here are some tips for cutting back. Why don't you set a specific time limit for using technology each day? Create tech-free zones in your home or workplace, or find alternative activities to do instead of using technology, such as exercise or reading a book. The benefits of reducing screen time is that when you unplug from devices before bedtime, you can take breaks every hour. Maybe you can go for a walk or read a book instead of scrolling. You'll feel more relaxed and focused. Thank you for taking the first step toward a more mindful use of technology. Even today, after this meeting, perhaps you can go for a stroll, find a verdant landscape full of a garden or fresh flowers so you can take a little time to enjoy and smell the roses. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day. And then I would probably close my technology. But if I hit escape, what I wanted to show you as I finish up is that you can move these around. You can move anything around in this presentation. And maybe you want to substitute something else, or maybe you didn't like this picture here, so you'll just find some more pictures right in Canva, which for any of you who didn't know is an online software that can help you design presentations and flyers and more. So this was something that I just found out about this weekend. I just decided to do it earlier today. And one other thing I found out while I present is that if I hit the B key, in PowerPoint, B gives you black, but in Canva, it seems it blurs the screen. But this would be an opportunity to have the audience focus on you instead of the screen. So that's one more little tip. So I encourage you to play around with Magic Design by Canva. Now, back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sunny. That was amazing. Something I really appreciate about this club is that everyone is always sharing these amazing tips to use technology to our advantage, which in an online presentation club is so crucial. These are exactly the skills that we're trying to build, and the fact that our members are so knowledgeable about these skills is just wonderful. All right, for the rest of our functionary roles, the ones who are going to be watching and looking at the things that you're doing and reporting on them at the end of the meeting, our first one is our timer, Mr. Andrew Byrne.
Thank you very much, Miss or Madam Toastmaster of the Day. The role of the timer is to provide you some clues as you're speaking in different segments, whether it's table topics, whether it's evaluation, or if it's in your project speech. You'll know where you are because I will provide you different lighting effects behind my screen, and they include green, yellow, and red at the appropriate time for the appropriate speech. So we will do those kinds of things. We're starting off with our prepared speeches today are all 5 to 7 minute speeches. Is that correct?
I believe our first speech is 15 to 20, actually. Let me double check that real fast.
I asked for 12 to 15.
12 to
so
15, that's right.
You could time it for 10, 11, 12, and then we'll have a little time for questions. So 10, 11, 12, and then time it like an evaluation 2 to 3 for the Q&A.
3 minutes for questions and answers.
Yeah.
Hard cutoff at 15, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew. All right, and for our awe counter, Miss Carolina Ramirez.
Good afternoon, good evening, fellow Toastmaster. I'll be the awe counter today. I'm already counting your grunts for everyone who speaks today, your awkward sounds, or maybe grunts like etc. Back to you, Evie.
Thank you so much, Carolina. I expect to be gotten a whole lot this meeting, as always. And for our grammarian, Mr. Andrei Smolenko.
Thank you very much, Evie. Hello, fellow online presenters and guests. My name is Andrei, and my role is for today, grammarian. One of the most important roles in Toastmasters, as you know, because my job is to introduce the word of the day, which is, I put it in comments in a minute, is verdant. It's an adjective meaning green with vegetation, lush and growing. So word verdant. Try to use that word in your speeches, of course, appropriately. And I will keep the counts of all the words used, and I'll get back to you at the end of the evening at the same time as watching particularly good English language usage. I love it. Being Ukrainian, I think I'll keep an eye on you. Back to you, Evie.
Thank you so much, Andrei. All right, and for our watcher, we have the very special Shirley Jean-Charles. Thank you so much.
My role will be to watch the screen and to look for body movement, body language, and observe and give a report after that. Back to you, Madam Postmaster.
Thank you so much, Shirley. And for our chat monitor, we have Marie Leffler. I wrote down the pronunciation.
Thank you so much, Evie. I think I need a little clarification exactly what I am doing. I am actually watching the chat, but am I to find interesting facts in the chat or just to, is that what it is? I'm watching and getting interesting facts and that's my report at the end of the meeting. Am I correct?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Basically as watching it. It was new when I joined this club too. I'd never seen it before. And for an online format, it's extra special. Basically
Gotcha.
anything interesting or engaging, informative, you can report on that at the end of the meeting. It's a wonderful
Perfect.
role. I
Thank
love
you
it.
so much.
You're
Okay,
so
thank
welcome.
you.
And thank you for taking it on. We really appreciate it. And for last but not least, our vote counter, our last functionary role, Mr. Graham Cairns.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My role will be to take the votes for the best speaker and best evaluator and best table topic. So all members and guests are welcome to vote for this. I haven't actually got the link to the, yes, I do now. I've got the link, so I will be setting up a link. It'll come up in the chat after the speakers and after the evaluators and after the table topics. You'll be able to vote for the best speaker, the best table topics, and the best evaluator for the evening, provided they meet the required time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Graham. And all right, on to the meeting. Today's theme is April showers. We embrace this theme as the raindrops fall and soak into the earth, as everything isn't quite warm enough for some of our tastes, me. It's a reminder that even the dreariest days can still bring growth and rejuvenation. So in the spirit of April showers, let us embrace the lessons that come our way. Be they gentle drizzles or torrential downpours, each experience we face, whether pleasant or challenging, holds the power to foster growth and personal development. So let us open those umbrellas, not indoors, put on our galoshes, probably not right now, but definitely dive into today's meeting with the same enthusiasm as a child jumping into a puddle. And remember, as the saying goes, April showers bring May flowers. So let's cultivate those skills today to blossom into better speakers and leaders. All right, on to our first speaker of the day. Mr. David Carr. Since shortly after the launch of online presenters in 2023, the club has held an annual webinar contest, a modified version of a standard Toastmasters contest designed to test member skills that are specific to delivering a speech online. Our next speaker was the Charter Year President of Online Presenters and currently serves as our VPE. The webinar contest has changed over the years, and it's still an experiment with no recognition from Toastmasters International, but still amazing. David will explain how it's different from other contests and why it's important. This year, Online Presenters will hold a club-level webinar contest on May 8th and is also planning an invitational event where all the contestants will be guest speakers on June 12th. So without further ado, David F. Carr.
Thank you, Evie. So I've asked for a few minutes tonight to talk about the webinar contest because even some of our regular club members have been a little bit confused about what it is, what it isn't. I started talking about this thing for invited guest speakers, and folks said, well, wait a minute, what about us? Are you leaving us out? No, I'm not leaving you out. We're not leaving you out. You're going to have an opportunity to compete. We did something last year as part of a multi-club event, but Toastmasters International has made it kind of awkward to organize another multi-club event. So if we're going to have people in here for the invitational event, that's actually the one that you won't get to compete in. We're going to support that, and hopefully we're going to bring in some amazing speakers from other clubs, from other parts of the world, who will get a chance to experiment in this format. But to go back over it one more time, my name is David Carr. I have the good fortune of having been the Charter Year President of this club, got it started in 2017 with a lot of help from Graham and Andy and some other folks who are no longer active in this club, but still set us in a great positive direction, like Lois Margolin. I am a writer and editor. I'm also an occasional contributor to the Toastmasters magazine. So I was in there recently in March with an article about the wide world of hybrid Toastmasters. So I also operate in that world of setting stuff up in a physical meeting space to try and extend the reach of an in-person meeting to the broader world. I got quoted in this month's meeting talking about how online presentations aren't going away, online meetings. The online element of Toastmasters is not going away, even though it was, obviously became a much bigger thing during the pandemic when it was by necessity. But it's a big deal in the professional world too, that organizations have changed their pattern of whether they're going to do meetings or training or conferences in person or online or a blend of the two. And everybody is still just feeling their way. So in this month's article, I'm quoted talking about how it needs to be pursued as a distinct professional skill, a distinct public speaking skill, how to speak online. Let me just ask people to maybe enter into the chat. Tell me an example of a work meeting, a professional meeting outside of Toastmasters, or this may have occurred in Toastmasters as well, one that you went to that was not as well organized as it ought to have been, where there was an open mic with somebody yelling at their kids and their dog in the background. I've been to those in work meetings, a company meeting where nobody knows how to mute that stray mic because they haven't thought ahead to sort of appointing people into those roles. Those are some of the things that we have practiced in our club. Now, Toastmasters International has gotten into online speaking at a high level. They've done it as of necessity. The gentleman you see up top there is Mike Carr, and no, we're not related unless it's, somewhere way back in the old country, but he was the world champion of public speaking in 2020 when the entire contest was forced online. And he used some very interesting techniques of playing with the camera frame. So he starts off with a scene where he is the sheriff hauling back the doors of the jail cell, and the edge of the camera frame becomes the door of the camera cell. And you can see, he's an animated guy, he's a toon. And the gentleman down below is Alexandra Matt, who this past year, the contest got back to being in person, partly, except that there were some speakers who couldn't attend in person and they were able to attend virtually. Alexander came in #2 in the world with a speech delivered remotely, competing with people who were on stage. So that was also very interesting. And notice again that he also is playing with the medium. He's playing with the camera frame. Here he is handing you a piece of his mother's or his grandmother's no-bake cake through the camera frame. But those still are both, I would think of them as really speeches that were meant to be delivered up in front of people that were transported online because of circumstances, which is a little bit different of an animal from what we're talking about with the webinar contest. This is our contest to determine who can do the best job of delivering a presentation online, taking advantage of the elements of an online meeting that are advantages, that we can use interesting visual effects, for example. We can use polling and other things that maybe we couldn't do as easily in person. So taking advantage of the advantages, but also overcoming the hurdles, because you're not in the same room with people. If you're telling a joke, it's hard to tell if it lands. Maybe you see people laugh on the screen, maybe you see them smile or snickering a little bit, but you're not getting that instant reaction the way you are in person. And actually, Alexander Matt talks about the fact that the hybrid contest in 2022 was not actually hybrid from his point of view, because he still was not getting any feed from the room. He didn't know how people in the room were reacting to his speech. So it was more or less as if he was doing a speech on YouTube or something. He was just streaming it out into the void. So here's what we came up with several years ago. is we looked at the criteria for how you were awarded points in the international speech contest, and we reallocated those values a little bit. So one of the most important things here is audience engagement. How do you create some kind of engagement with your audience, get some feedback from them, get some input from them? How do you know that they haven't fallen asleep while you're speaking? Right? How do you wake them up if they have fallen asleep? And I'll recommend to you in a moment a presentation you can look at that speaks to how you create that interaction. And also typically, if you're doing a business webinar, it would end with some kind of a specific call to action. So that's part of the presentation too. Your use of visuals is definitely a part of it. And so this is just a hacked version of the International Speech Contest, essentially, to try and take it online. And I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell here. I just wanted to show you the history of it. So the club started in 2017. About a year into it, we came up with this idea of, we've had in some great guest speakers talking about online presentations, but how about we see how our members have absorbed these lessons? So we did our first contest in this format, or a version of this format. It's changed several times. In April 2018, it was won by Carol Prahinsky. I think it was not quite a full year later that we did our second contest, which was also won by Carol Prahinsky. And then she decided to show some mercy. And so she was the contest master for the next one and give some other people a chance. Though I think our next winner might have won anyways. It was Sunny Fridge, who is here with us tonight. And just to give you an idea of Sunny's speech, one of the interactive elements she used is she found this animated Family Feud graphic anywhere. And some of you are too young to remember, but this maybe in the 80s, I don't know, maybe earlier, was an American TV show where they would answer questions and the little cards there would spin around and go ding, ding, ding. And you would either be right or wrong. You would find out, you'd get the buzzer or the reward. And so she had that as a way of creatively working some interaction with the audience into her speech. I still think it's one of the best that we've had. Now, we did do this again last week as part of EVV CON. It used to be called VTM CON, except that Toastmasters International decided we couldn't use their branding for it. But we had in Mike Carr, the 2020 World Champion of Public Speaking, to be our keynote speaker. I'll share the links to all this. And we had a webinar contest, which Mike Carr kind of introduced and teed up. And the other element I'd love for you to look at is this from Cat Mulvihill. She specifically talks about creating engagement in the online format. And before I run out of time, and this may actually take me past my allotted time, but I want to show you this from Mike Carr. This was his advice to last year.
I told you a little bit about the webinar contest that we're doing, which is sort of like the contest where you had your chance to excel, but the rules are tweaked a little bit to specifically look at, are you able to create engagement in an online speech? Which I think is great. Because you are speaking through this piece of glass, and there are all these barriers in place. But people do have license to use a green screen or to use fancy Prezi techniques. And I am trying to tell people too that it's not that you should do these things, it's just that you have permission to do them. We're not pretending that it's a speech that was meant to be given on stage and we just happen to be recording it. This is your speech that you designed to be wonderful and effective online. Do you have any advice for the people who will be competing in that about how they should craft it, how they should think through the process?
Yes, take risks. If David Carr has told you you can do X, do 2X. Anything that anything that anywhere your imagination can go, try it, because I did not believe that I could win the World Championship of Public Speaking that year for a number of reasons. Other people in the contest where I fell in the contest. And so what I was just trying to do was to create a video that I could use for industry that said something, that really said something into the world. And that was it, because I knew that I was not going to win. And so I took risks, and it was that very thing that judges and everyone else came back and said, oh my goodness, you know, that was the differentiator. And that's what happened. So, you know, the individuals who are going to be in this contest, it's like a showcase. You know, I'm sure that they can get a video, and it's a great part to get a beautiful, high quality video that they can take and they can present. They can either have as just something in their own personal archive that their grandkids say, oh, look at this neat piece of art that grandma or grandpa, you know, put together way back when we didn't have, you know, the holograms, when they weren't able to, you know, appear before us in person. Or even better, you know, something that then can be taken to education or to non.
I'm gonna stop it there. I'm cutting out the part where I said, gee, I don't know about that 2x, 3x go wild advice, because still it is a speech that you're delivering, and the point is to use the tools effectively, not to go wild with every possible tool you could use. With that, I'm running late on time, but can we allow, how about we allow just a minute for a question or two, quick question or two?
I got a question, if I may, David, not for you, but for Sunny, for example, for those that have competed in this in the past. How do you structure it so that you know there is enough time for a call to action at the end, for example? And how do you structure it so that you know you've got enough time for personal interaction? Because I want to win. And so I want to know what I need to do.
Wow, those are two questions there, but practice and time your speech. I actually had a little tech difficulty during my presentation, but I overcame it pretty quickly. And fortunately, the bells rang, I believe, and I was able to make my animation work. But practice is all I can say, and know your time limits. I believe we had 5 to 7 minutes for that contest. And fortunately, I made it within the time. And I wish you the best. I'm going to be entering it too. I already signed up, so see you online.
All right. Very cool. I guess maybe I should stop it there so that the meeting can go forward. I posted a bunch of resources in the chat, and I can maybe stick around a little bit later after the meeting to answer any other additional questions.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, David. You're always such a treasure trove of this amazing information, this educational information that will benefit all of us, especially those of us who really, really want to build our skills more quickly. All right, for our next speaker, we have a very exciting topic about another technology this club was recently introduced to by its founder, which was amazing. Yoodli is a software with some very exciting functionalities for any Toastmaster, but I'll let our speaker explain in more detail. She will be giving us an insider view of her use of social media to promote her second DTM project, the introduction of the Yoodli software, delivering presentation mastery level 4 building skills, public relations strategies with the title of Yoodli 7-Day Challenge. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Joni Laidlaw.
What is the time?
The time for this.
Minutes.
Thank you.
What?
5 to 7 minutes.
5 to 7. Are we ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Right. April showers bring May flowers. I like to get ahead of things, and since we don't technically have seasons in Jamaica except it's raining or it's not, my planting started in March, the 25th to be exact. Actually, it started before that, but the social media part actually did begin on the 25th of March with the Yoodli 7-day challenge. Honestly, don't you hate getting spam messages constantly via email or WhatsApp? Hands up for everybody who does. It's not personalized. It's the same thing repeated all over again. I took that into consideration when I decided to promote my Yoodli introduction. Most people, they get the same flyer, they get the same video, and they send the same thing over and over and over again. Or the other option is to give their PR team, which mine is a bit small, a lot of work to chase a lot of videos and do a lot of editing, which I really had no interest in doing. You see, the thing is, I wanted to make sure that everybody was informed, but also I had a reason to be messaging people. Why would I want to do that? I mean, after all, most people use email. The standard choice for most tends to be Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. And yes, I will admit I did post, but that was not actually the main source of how I was planning to market. See, my market was WhatsApp. And yes, I know Meta owns both Facebook and WhatsApp, but one's a messaging service and one's a social media network. Principles vary. Why did I decide on WhatsApp? I'm going to put the Jamaican on for a second. We have a thing here that we call grassroots. What does grassroots mean? It means doing it on a one-on-one on the level of the people. Fortunately, being a digital nomad and choosing to can't keep my foot quiet, translation, not be in one place for too long, it afforded me a rather large area of persons who I've interacted with, communicated with, and actually have as my personal contact. Now, to be completely honest, I have about 350 people that I followed up for this. What I decided to do in introducing Yoodli though was not just to say, hey, guess what? I'm having a training, it's on Yoodli, but to get people used to it. I wanted feedback. I wanted discussion. And if nobody was using it, there wouldn't be an interaction. I mean, people would come, they would sit, they would nod, they would look at you, they would be interested, but not actually interacting with it, getting the pain points, understanding what was wrong. They wouldn't have any feedback from me and the team on the day of my training. My training was about enhancing the Yoodli experience over just a basic introduction, and there was even some speech tips thrown in. But this is not that speech. Now let's talk about the trend that I tried to jump on. To make it easier for everybody, I wanted to use hashtags. Make it simple. Play the game on Yoodli and then post it on social media. The choice was completely yours. I was the accountability partner, but it allowed me the opportunity to reach out to persons and say, hey, remember this is happening on this day. But it came in the form of a message that, hey, it's day 2. How are you doing on your challenge? Are you using it? And it opened the course for dialogue. That enabled me to basically not go viral on social media, because to be honest, if we were going based on what Facebook and Instagram said, I would have failed miserably. But with 125 individual logins according to Zoom and 350 persons interacting with me, discussing Yoodli, talking on a grassroots personal level, I personally take that as a measure of success. I mean, after all, how often can we say that by simply sharing a challenge on the WhatsApp platform, we get the opportunity to reach out to 350 people with a valid reason to constantly remind them over the course of 7 days. And not only that, give them the opportunity to have something that they would be doing. In conclusion, whenever you're going to do public relations, I would suggest don't spam people. Give persons a reason to interact. Oh yeah, I did it. I tried. I went on. I connected these. As a WhatsApp message is so much better than, yeah, you sent this to me last week. Yeah, I saw this already. Yeah, please don't send this to me again. Go in with a plan. And the plan, and the best plan, is always interact, 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 because you have no idea how verdant your contact list is. They just might not want to answer you because they keep seeing the same thing. Back to you, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Toastmaster Joni. That was a wonderful speech. All right, I would like to take this opportunity to go ahead and check in with our timer. Did both of our illustrious speakers qualify today? Oh, sorry, we can't hear you.
They are, and their times are posted. David had a total of 15 minutes and he went 15:30. So he just made it by the skin of his teeth. And our second speaker had a bracketed time of up to 7 minutes, and she did 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Timer. All right, everyone, please take a moment to go ahead and submit your votes. And if you will, maybe write them a love note of encouragement and thanks for wonderful speeches and what it meant to you. All right, and while we do that, let's move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is my personal favorite, table topics, the impromptu portion of our meeting, the part of the meeting that teaches us to think on our feet, makes us better in everyday conversations, and it's just a whole lot of fun every single time. All right, and to lead us, the brilliant person who will lead us tonight is Marianne Grady, who has been a member of Online Presenters since early 2020. Tonight, she will lead the table topics segment of our meeting and will be looking to us for some advice. Please help me welcome our table topics masters to the virtual lectern. Marianne.
You want to know a timing for this?
I'll tell them.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. As Table Topics Master, it's my job to facilitate the impromptu speaking segment of our meeting. And I will ask a question and you will have 1 to 2 minutes to respond. You'll see a green at 1, a yellow at 1:30, and a red at 2. So when you see that yellow, try and wrap it up. Tonight, I was thinking about what should I make my questions about? And I know we have such a group of wise sages here that I thought I'd ask for some advice that I thought could help me and everybody in the club. So put on your thinking caps, and when I call on you, please give us your best advice with regard to your question. Now I'm going to call on Carolina first. Carolina, what would your advice be to somebody who's having career issues due to a mean boss?
Oof. Thank you, Marianne, for your question. That situation happened to me like 5 years ago. And it's a very difficult situation because you are in a very difficult position because it's your boss and you don't have enough power over him or her. In my case, it was a him. I have a very serious problem, and the solution I found was to talk with his boss, 2 levels above me. But first, I told my boss at that time that I was going to speak with his boss. And because the situation was absolutely unfair to me, and he spoke with his boss first, and then I spoke with his boss after him. And the situation was partially solved because my ex-boss didn't want me to work with him because personal thoughts about his life, I'm not sure. But I would say be patient, but I would recommend to look for another job, because if your boss doesn't like you, it's very difficult that you're going to change the situation, especially if you haven't done anything. So I would say be patient, but start looking for another job, because maybe you're going to lose some time and you will have more opportunities to grow professionally speaking in another place when your boss like you, or maybe your boss wants you to see grow your career. Back to you, Marianne.
Well, Carolina, we know he must have been a crazy person if he didn't like you. Next up, I'm going to call upon Mr. Jim Barber. Jim, what's the most important step to calm down a person who's angry?
Wow. Madam Topics Master, what is the most important step toward calming somebody down that's angry? That would depend very much on the situation, but if you can do it, and this wouldn't work all the time, but if you can do it, I find from personal experience that administering drugs is a good approach. If a good shot of a tranquilizer will calm someone down, and very quickly, without a lot of to-do, not a lot of anxiety, you will have a great deal of verdant reaction. Now, that doesn't make any sense, but I wanted to use the word of the day, and so I got it in there. Now, if drugs are not available, alcohol works as well. The nice thing about alcohol is that you can take your alcohol yourself while you're administering it to the other person. The two of you become very happy, and all traces of anger tend to go away. There are many other approaches that you can use to reduce anger when you're in a confrontation, but frankly, I find that either drugs or alcohol work very, very well in both cases. That would be the first thing that I would try, Madam Topics Master.
Good advice for sure, Jim. Next up, I'd like to call upon one of our guests, Maria Leffler. What's the most important, do you think people can change? Why or why not?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I do think people can change in small ways. And I think that is true because I've seen it happen. I've seen some pretty angry and confused people move forward and change into people who are extremely productive in society and who are able to really do fabulous things. For example, I used to run a dance studio where most of my students were young kids. And there was this one youngster, oh my goodness, did she push my buttons? Oh, good grief. People would sometimes say to me, you know, she should really be out of here. And I'm like, I absolutely, totally agree. She should be out of here. But for some reason, I didn't do it. And she stayed. And she irritated everyone. And she spent more time in the quote time out area than anyone else in the entire studio. But for some reason, I kept her. And after a while, lo and behold, didn't she start changing? And I ran into her recently, which has been, wow, 30 years. And she is the head of a company. And she is part of this organization that helps errant children, big surprise. And she is now doing just wonderful work with the kids that need her help. So yes, I do think people can change. It may take a very long time, but I do think it is possible. Thank you for that question.
Terrific response. Now, Toastmaster Evie, do we have time for more?
I'm going to say you have time for one more.
Okay. I'm going to call upon Andre. Andre, what's your #1 advice for someone who has not a clue what they want to do for a living in the future?
Thank you very much, Madam Table Topics Master. What a wonderful question. It almost caught me off guard. At the same time, I remember one of the basic advices one of my mentors gave me in answering your question is fake it until you make it. Fake it until you make it can be a valuable tool in achieving your goals. Looking especially at the young generation who would rather invest much more value into just making them look right or sound right instead of paying attention to the value. At the same time, the other part of younger generation or our generation as well would rather concentrate on technical terms and be trying to overcome the syndrome of imposter as well. So the one thing, fake it until you make it, and then you're still not sure what to do. At the same time, sticking with one of the other advices that I heard already today in one of the speeches is take risks. Otherwise, if you don't take risks, then you will never get any reward. So the only reward perhaps you could get is just staying in your comfort zone and enjoying your life. Madam Table Topics Master, what a wonderful question that I can go on and on and on. However, in summary, two main things: fake it until you make it, and do not pay any attention to the so-called imposter syndrome. Well, at the end of the day, we're here to take risks. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Well, thank you kindly for that great advice. Okay, everybody, this concludes our table topics session. And I would ask the timer if all of our speakers have qualified.
Yes, they have.
Okay, well, I don't believe you're voting right now. Is that correct?
Say it again. Well, everybody's times are there. Voting is now up. Just in the chat, just press vote for table topic speaker.
Okay, and so the first speaker was Carolina, giving advice about the mean boss. Jim, calming down angry person. Guest, Maria Leffler. She was talking about can people change? And Andre, giving advice to someone who has no clue about what they want to do in the future. Okay, back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Table Talks Master, for those challenging topics. I think I speak for all of us when I say you really made us think, even if we weren't the ones called on. Those were some really heavy-hitting topics and so perfect for the theme of April showers. I think you and your table topic speakers made us all ponder how worthwhile it is to endure that rain and get to the blossoms, or in Jim's case, made us maybe crave a little of that rainwater, if you know what I mean. You know, rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey, am I right? Anyway, thanks for the great session. And like I already said, please, everyone, submit your votes if you haven't already. All right, on to the most important part of the meeting, the part where we give encouragement and constructive criticism and more encouragement to the speakers that we've had today. We've got a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Graham Cairns, with his enthusiasm. He does podcasts and he's doing our general evaluation for the meeting today. Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the evaluation section. Now, everybody here is a Toastmaster, so I think everybody here is a Toastmaster, so I don't need to go into too much detail, but I really do genuinely believe that evaluation is the cornerstone of the Toastmasters experience. There's no point in any of us standing here flapping our gums unless we get feedback, unless we get told what we've done right and should continue to do, but also perhaps what we might be able to improve upon. So I'll begin with the formal evaluations. We have 2 evaluators tonight. Jim Barber is evaluating our first speaker, David Carr. So for a period of 2 to 3 minutes, with lights at 2, 2.5, and 3, please welcome Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters are most welcome guests this evening, and of course, especially Toastmaster David F. Carr. David, you're probably tired of my telling you, and every other, for that matter, everybody else telling you what a great job you do as a presenter. But I'm sorry, you're just going to have to sit through one more session of it. This was a terrific presentation, and this wasn't one of your standard, I've heard you give standard training presentations or technical presentations. This was pretty much an off-the-cuff presentation. You wanted to tell us about the upcoming contests, and so you were just speaking to us. And of course, being conversational is one of your strengths, and you were just showing that tonight. You were doing a great job of it. Despite the fact that it was off the cuff largely, it was nevertheless well organized. It was logical. We could follow what you were talking about. During the presentation, it was interesting. You were articulate. You explained things very well. You had a great use of the visual frame like you're doing now. You were well centered, your lighting was good, everything worked there. Sometimes you brought in, as we illustrate there, brought in a slide, and that was well used. It didn't stay up for too long. It was stayed up while it was appropriate. You talked about it, but it didn't dominate the frame. You stayed in the frame. You were the star of the presentation. That's so important. You did that. And when you were done with the slide, you went back to being a solo presentation. That was great. Your gestures are as always, they were natural. They were congruent with what you were saying. Very well done. You went out of time, as I'm possibly going to do, but you recovered very nicely. And again, that was acceptable in an off-the-cuff presentation. You still came in on time, and that was so good. I have one suggestion for you, and it's probably, you know this, but it's probably because it was an off-the-cuff presentation. You ended with saying something like, I'll stick around to answer any questions that you might have. Not the strongest closing that you could have had. A call to action would have been better. I hope that all of our members see the value of the contest, and I hope that every member will sign up to be a contestant or in a supporting role in the contest, because this is a great thing for our club to do, or something like that. But other than that, lacking a call to action, this was again another standard, magnificent David F. Carr presentation, and I look forward to the next one. I'm coming in on time, and so I've got the opportunity to squeeze in the word verdant. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
That's me, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Sorry. I was thinking, where's the Toastmaster? Why aren't they moving on to the next one? Because I'm used to the Australian experience where the Toastmaster introduces the speakers and then the general evaluator just evaluates the evaluators, which is what I was writing down. Let's move on to our second evaluator now. Our second evaluator tonight is Toro, and Toro is going to be evaluating the second presentation, which was by our Yoodli ambassador, Joni Laidlaw. So, Toro, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your practical presentation, Joni-Renee Laidlaw. I would like to raise 2 good points. And if I can tell you one thing by which I think you could improve your speech. First thing, first good thing that you have touched on the intriguing theme, proceeding and improving the speech by taking advantage of online technology. It would arouse the interest of many audiences who have the aspiration to do so. The second, contents of your presentation is concrete and practical. You have tried best to explain the benefits of using the application, especially introducing the idea of how to utilize the application, which I don't know very well, Yoodli, and another platform of SNS. And now I'm referring to the 2 points of improvement. First is the focus. You have announced in the introduction of your speech previously that you're going to talk about the way by which you get the second DTM by using the technology of SNS. And that was an attractive theme. And I was looking to hearing in detail in this presentation today, but it seems to me the demonstrative aspect of this delivery was missing. You yourself is DTM, so I want you to tell how you're going to get the DTM by taking an advantage of the existing platform on online. The second thing I noticed was the demonstrative aspect of delivery, because many of us, well, I may be wrong, but at least some of us not familiar with the application or platform you're referring to. So please introduce the concept and basic concept of the this application first, and then I want you to demonstrate how to use this application to improve your speech in just one case or in your personal experience. Introduce the episode or story. But overall, your presentation was intriguing and advantageous. So I'm looking forward to hearing another presentation about your ways that tell us how to get the second DTM by using SNS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toru. Thank you for that evaluation. I'll give you an evaluation of your evaluation in just a moment. But before I do, I'm going to look at the timing. And I believe that Toru, rather than being verdant, as in green, was in fact quite rosy, as in red, at the end of his evaluation. So I suspect not eligible. Am I correct there, Andy?
His time was greater than 4 minutes.
In that case, sorry, Toru, you're not eligible to win the best evaluator for tonight, which means that the best evaluator goes by default to Jim Barber. Yay! But we'll get back to the voting a little later. Let's move on now to the other assistants. We had, for example, a grammarian tonight who was watching not only our use of the word, but also our use of other words and whether we'd done good. Let's find out from our grammarian how well or otherwise we did tonight. Andrei Smelenko, can we try and keep these to about a minute if we can?
Thank you very much, Graham. Yes, we will keep it up to a bare minimum. The words of the day verdant wasn't that popular as I expected. It's been used twice by Jim Barber, who brought my attention to it, masterfully in his speeches. Excellent clap, and the high standards of English language was really I was pleased to hear that. However, a few things I would like to mention is Joni Laidlaw's speech when she says grassroots on a personal level, that really touched. And Evie, our Toastmaster of the day, Write a love note of encouragement. It's just those things couldn't slip off my mind, and I really praise our members for that. Overall, great night. And back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andre. Now, a watcher tonight was Shirley. Now, Shirley is a guest to the club and wasn't quite sure what she was going to be doing, but she volunteered to step up and do it anyway. Well done. Shirley, any observations you'd like to make about how we appeared tonight?
Thank you, General Evaluator. We appeared very well tonight. Everybody was quite centered on the screen, but I only have one observation. It was Carolina. She was a little bouncing in a chair, like bouncing and turning around. And after that, everybody was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you for being our watcher this evening. It's a role that is, while not unique to this club, it's not one that you often see, and I thank you for doing it tonight. Our R counter tonight was Carolina, the ever effervescent and bouncy Carolina. How do we go?
Thank you, Graham. I'm trying to share my screen. Here is what I got from you. Our favorite grants are A and I got some grants from Evie, Sunny, Andy, Graham, David, and Toru. Be careful with the A and Ms. And if you're not here, you did a great job. But in general terms, you are very professional speakers. Back to you, Graham.
Thank you, Carolina. Our chat monitor tonight, once again, was a guest who wasn't quite sure what the role was going to be, but I'm sure has done a marvelous job anyway, because she can do whatever she likes. No, so for around a minute, Marie, any observations from the chats?
Yeah, this is a very chatty group, dare I say. Sorry for the pun. But there was a mention of another feature of Canva in the chat called Chat GPT, which helps to write speeches. So that was interesting. A funny comment from Jim was that Flora does not count as a filler pause. I loved that. And there were some fun things in answer to David's question about meetings that you've been at. Andre mentioned Zoom bombers. Evie said, never underestimate the power of large groups to not mute their mics. And please do check the chat for some really interesting links from both David and our tip person. And I think, the other thing that David mentioned, which was a great idea, I thought, was the idea for using the evaluation criteria for his speech tonight, as probably we'll do in the future for some of you who are competing. So those were the things I found that were interesting. Please do go back and check. There was a lot of chatter going on there. So thank you for letting me be in this role.
Thank you, Murray, for doing that. And just a reminder, as Murray says, there are a number of really valuable things in the chat tonight rather than just us chatting to each other. So down in the chat box at the bottom, the three dots, the click on it says save chat. You can save that chat, and everything that has been said in tonight's meeting, in the chat at least, is available to you, including all of those links. Don't believe there's any other ancillary roles I have to run through, so let me give a brief evaluation first of our two evaluators. Jim, can I make the observation that Jim actually spent a quarter of a minute of his first minute, so that is 1/12 of his entire time, before he actually got to say anything. It was, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests, and particularly I would like to thank our speaker tonight. That's all fine, it's wonderful, but it's taking up a fair amount of the time. And it's in fact 1/4 of 1 minute, which is 1/12 of your entire time. Having said that, what you did say from that point on, I thought was particularly valuable, pointed to the strengths of David's conversational style. I love the use of visuals to show what David was doing. Jim also spoke about time and noted how David had brought us back onto time, which is good. But he also used specifics, and I loved his suggestion that there should have been a specific call to action at the end of David's presentation. So that is something that as an evaluator, we should all aspire to do, to give something specific for the presenter to take away, something that they can put into play in their very next presentation. Our second evaluation came up tonight from Toru. It was warm and empathetic. Toru used a style that I call tell us, tell us, tell us. He told us what he was going to do. He then told us, and then he told us what he had done. I'm going to tell you a couple of things I liked. I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions. I'm now going to summarize. And he did that really well. Having said that, an evaluation is also a mini speech. And Toru has a tendency, and it may well be cultural, I have to say, to do dot points to say, okay, that was that, that was that. Now I'm going straight to this. Some of those nice phrases about that was really well done, but an area that you might like to work on, it makes it seem just a little less abrupt. As I say, this may be a cultural thing. I just thought I would draw it to your attention. Having said that, both of those evaluations I thought were particularly effective. And as I say, they both gave some really good specific advice to move forward. Other things I'm going to evaluate, the table topics, an excellent use of topics, choices, some really great responses. And I loved Andre's. He had no idea what he was going to talk about. So he just decided if you can't make it, you can fake it until you make it. And that's a really good way to answer a table topic if you don't know what you're doing. If you've got no idea what the topic was, if you were, for example, doing something else on your computer when the table topic was given to you and you think, oh, that was me, wasn't it? Then that's a really good way of responding. So well done. That's a technique that I quite like to see done. It was a great meeting. I really enjoyed it. The Toastmaster tonight, Evie, is professionalism writ large. She was fully in control of this meeting. We all knew exactly what we were doing, when we were doing it, why we were doing it, how we were doing it. She made sure that every one of us was right on top of our roles tonight. And that's the job of a master of ceremonies, the MC, the Toastmaster. It's not to be it's not to be the greatest showman or showwoman. It's to be the anchor around which the meeting revolves. And Evie did, I think, a masterful job of doing that tonight. Congratulations, Evie. I really enjoyed that. Time to announce the results, because I am also the vote counter. Now I need to go to this. Let's go to the contest set. How do I get the results? I submit. There's got to be these results here somewhere. Check now, and I'll see what the voting says. The results for the best speaker, we had a two-way tie between David Carr and Renee Laidlaw. So well done to both of you. For table topics, Mari Leffler is our winner tonight. Congratulations to you on winning the best table topic. And the best evaluation, of course, is by a slam dunk. He was the only candidate who was eligible, Jim Barber. That's our votes. That's my general evaluation. Madam Toastmaster, the meeting is yours.
Thank you so much, Graham. This has been a wonderful meeting. Thank you so much for that wonderful, thank you. That was very sweet. I've really enjoyed being the Toastmaster of the day today. I look forward to more in the future. I know we've got some more things to talk about before we all break for the evening, so I'll return it as quickly as I can to our president, Andrew Byrne. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the day. We're going to be quick in this, and what we're going to do, you can turn off the recording, is we're going to call on our guests and ask them to give 15-20 seconds about what they took away from the meeting. What did they enjoy the most about it? What they would talk to others about our meeting and promoting it. I start off with Sherry.
Thank you for the opportunity of being here. Thank you for letting me take in the role. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate that you're accepting me in that group, like you're welcoming me. And thank you. For the meeting, I learned a lot about the importance of online, and it's more about technology, and we have to get surrounding about that, and the knowledge and that you're providing here is very helpful and helpful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Look forward